Hey guys, you've heard of the Young Turks podcast because you're listening to it right now. But make sure that you subscribe and give it a 5-star rating if you like it. Thank you for listening. All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Jake Ugratic, we're back. Okay, so amazing show ahead for you guys. We've got Border Patrol doing terrible things. You're gonna see that in a second. Donald Trump doing questionable things. Well, that's Monday. And then an amazing fact check from the Washington Post on Bernie Sanders. They declare that he is telling the truth and attack him anyway for it. Amazing.
It is amazing.
Okay. Speaking of the Washington Post, Dave Weigel from the Washington Post is going to join me in the conversation today. So I think it's going to be a great discussion. By the way, Scaramucci was supposed to be on today, but he had a little bit of a scheduling issue, but he will be on in a couple of weeks. So it'll be great to have the mooch on and have a fascinating, honest conversation about the Trump administration. Okay, and we even have Ivanka on the show today. And in the post game, I know I'm teasing that fairly early, another wild story from an Uber ride in Miami relating to sexual issues and toes. Okay, tyt.com/join to become a member of the Young Turks. Get all of our coverage, both fun and not fun, both serious, lighthearted, and very, very important as well. All right, go.
Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez visited a Border Patrol facility in El Paso, Texas, and outlined the horrific conditions in which these migrants are kept in. At this point, it isn't surprising considering all of the various news reports indicating that these migrants are being mistreated and abused. But her tweets are getting quite a bit of attention, so let me share them with you. In one tweet, she says, "Just left the first CBP facility. I see why CBP officers are being so physically and sexually threatening toward me." I'll fill you in on that in just a second. "Officers were keeping women in cells with no water and had told them to drink out of the toilets. This was them on their good behavior in front of members of Congress."
So if you think that sounds outrageous on a couple of fronts, and when I first saw it, I was like, physically and sexually threatening towards her. Well, you're about to see the details, and it's very true. It's not about her visit then and there, but it's about a story that ProPublica broke. And then drinking out of toilets, saying that in front of members of Congress, it just seems unbelievable. No, Representative Judy Chuda was also there. She backed up Ocasio-Cortez, saying they very clearly told women to drink out of toilets while members of Congress were there. Unbelievable.
So I actually would like to go to those videos first, and then I'm gonna fill you in on how these agents were threatening to women of Congress. Take a look.
We just left the El Paso Border Patrol station, and now we're going to the Clint Border Patrol station. But what we saw was appalling and disgusting. We talked to a group of women, detainees, who said that they didn't have running water, that one was an epileptic and she couldn't get her medication. They were separated from their children. They'd been there over 50 days. One woman said that the Border Patrol agent told her to if she wanted water, just to drink from a toilet.
So there you have a woman from Congress backing AOC's account up. And I mean, again, at this point, migrants being abused in these facilities is no surprise. What's shocking to me is that we have members of Congress who just aren't doing anything about it, right?
Yeah, no, I gotta be honest with you. Maybe I'm still naive to this moment. I was kind of shocked by the ProPublica reporting on how poorly a huge percentage of Border Patrol folks view these immigrants that they're detaining. I thought that, I don't know, this sounds, I know, ridiculously naive, that they would view them as different than prisoners.
No.
And that they would treat them with a little bit more respect. But no, of course that was foolish. No, they're apparently treating them in horrific ways and assuming that they're guilty of something. And so that the abuse is terrible. And this story put me over the top of, no, we gotta do everything we can. We gotta let him go. We gotta let him go. And that doesn't mean let him go in a lawless way. Just do it the way we had it before Trump, where they have to come back and appear in court. But holding them in these detention centers, they prove Ocasio-Cortez right and more right every single day with how they treat these detainees.
So ProPublica uncovered a private Facebook page titled I'm 1015. 1015 is code for aliens in custody. And it has 9,500 members in it. They're all either previous or current Border Patrol agents. And the posts are disgusting, dehumanizing, shocking, and they have written some horrific things about AOC in particular. So let me give you an example. According to ProPublica's reporting, perhaps the most disturbing posts target Ocasio-Cortez. One includes a photo illustration of her engaged in oral sex at an immigrant detention center. Text accompanying the image reads, "Lucky illegal immigrant glory hole special starring AOC."
You know, that one apparently was so bad they didn't even include the picture. The picture they included of AOC and Donald Trump was so horrific that I couldn't believe what the other picture must be. So, and they just, I know you have a description of it, and it's Trump pushing AOC's head down into his lap, but it's worse than that. And so it's horrible. I don't want to show it.
We're not going to show it, but I think it's important to give you the details of what the post entailed, because these are the people who are responsible for detaining these migrants, which gives you a sense of what type of people they are, where their head is at, and how they should not be in any type of position of power. So for instance, again, from ProPublica's reporting, another is a photo illustration of a smiling President Donald Trump forcing Ocasio-Cortez's head toward his crotch. The agent who posted the image commented, quote, "That's right, bitches. The masses have spoken, and today democracy won."
And again, the picture is actually worse. It implies very heavily that it's, you get it. So listen, one is how they're treating members of Congress, AOC. There's another Latina congresswoman that they said terrible things about. The other is how they're treating the migrants themselves. So now, important context here. This Facebook group has 9,500 people, as Anna pointed out. There's only 20,000 Border Patrol agents in the whole country. So I don't know that the entire 9,500 is Border Patrol agents, maybe it's family members, maybe it's friends, but that is a huge percentage of Border Patrol agents, any way you slice it, that is in this Facebook group. Now these outrageous things are being put up there. There doesn't seem to be much pushback, or people go, what are you doing? Don't put up that picture of AOC, that's disgusting, right? Or don't say that about migrants dying and how you don't care. That's preposterous. Or you're gonna make us look bad, even if I agree with you. Or could one person actually speak up and say, I don't agree with you guys and this is terrible? And then they have this quote in there, remember, you're never alone in this family. I mean, I don't know that I mean, what a horrific quote unquote family. But it goes to the conservative mindset, which is, if you're in our family, you're one of us, we'll do whatever it takes for you. But everyone else is the other, and is horrible, terrible, and must be crushed. So again, we'll give you more details here about how they're treating the immigrants in a second.
So I want to give you a few more of the posts that ProPublica was able to uncover. And I mean, I see the image of AOC in your printouts right now, and it's like difficult to even look at it. In one exchange, group members responded with indifference and wisecracks to the post of a news story about a 16-year-old Guatemalan migrant who died in May while in custody at the Border Patrol station in Texas. One member posted a GIF of Elmo with the quote, "Oh well." Another responded with an image and the words, "If he dies, he dies." So look, in the past, we found out in early 2018 through another report that Border Patrol agents in Arizona had derogatory names for the migrants that they were detaining, calling them guats, curses I can't repeat, beaners, subhuman, and the list goes on and on. So look, guys, this gets to the heart of the problem here. The Zimbardo experiment at Stanford showed, and it's studied in almost every psychology class there is, that if you have prisoners and detainees, guards and prisoners, right? The guards will almost always abuse the prisoners. In that case, they were both Stanford students, both groups were Stanford students,
And the experimenters had just told them, hey, we're doing an experiment. Half of you are gonna be prisoners arbitrarily, and half of you are gonna be guards arbitrarily. But immediately, the prisoners turned, the guards turned incredibly cruel, and the prisoners then took on all the terrible things that they were said. They started to feel as if it was real and started to have a sense of insecurity, et cetera, et cetera. So the reason I'm telling you this is because it is human nature. This is how we react. Even Stanford students who were told ahead of time did it anyway. But yet, we never teach the Zimbardo experiment at any correctional facility. Now, in this case, these are not prisoners. If you're gonna teach it anywhere, you should tell the guards ahead of time, do not treat these people like prisoners, and understand that whenever you have a situation with guards and detainees, it is human nature that cruelty will arise, and we are going to work ahead of time to make sure it doesn't happen. Does any of that look like it's happening? No, they just let Adam have at it, right? And then these guards turn vicious towards the detainees who aren't prisoners, who didn't commit any crimes, they didn't kill anyone, they didn't steal from anyone. So the worst you could charge them with was they were looking for hope when they came to America, and this is what they got instead.
Also, Cenk, I mean, that experiment is one thing, and human nature is something that should be considered when you talk about people in positions of power, capturing or keeping captive other people who have no power. But in this case, I think it's important to point to what type of person would be attracted to this type of job under the Trump administration especially. I mean, you have this administration on a regular basis dehumanizing these migrants, many of whom are not in any way involved in criminal behavior, are not violent, are literally looking for asylum because of economic reasons, or more importantly, because they're fleeing violence in their own countries. And who would want to be a Border Patrol agent under this type of system with a president who uses this type of rhetoric in regard to the migrants? I mean, it's going to attract a certain type of person. And by the way, I mean, Scaramucci said, and I always repeat this phrase because it's so accurate, the fish rots from the head down. You have someone like Donald Trump dehumanizing people. What does that do? What type of signaling does that do to the rest of America? And in particular, ICE agents and people who work in Border Patrol.
He calls them subhuman in essence. He calls them criminals and rapists. He says they're like a virus coming into the country. This is classic fascist talk to dehumanize people. And lo and behold, the Border Patrol agents, according to every one of these reports, turns out they're talking about them as if they're, quote, subhuman. A lot of them were talking about in their 2018 report, burning up the migrants. So we are doing untold cruelty to these people. And are the Border Patrol agents mainly conservative? If you had asked me before, again, sorry that I'm at this late date, I'm still this naive. I would have thought probably a majority are conservative or Republican, but it's probably fairly similar split to the country with a little tilted towards conservative. No, I was totally wrong. The posts are all horrifically conservative. Not like, hey, I believe in balanced budgets. No, the Ocasio-Cortez and Congresswoman Veronica Escobar is set to visit a facility in Texas, and one agent says that an agent brave enough to throw a 10-15 burrito at one of these bitches should get paid, and that we should set up basically a GoFundMe page for them. Again, no objections, okay? Another one, or maybe it's the same one, I'm not sure. No, a patrol supervisor says F the hose, referring to two congresswomen who both just happen to be Latina, okay? And so nobody objects. 9,500 people in a Facebook group. One insane conservative outrage after another. And again, it's not outrageous that they're conservative, it's outrageous how they're conservative. So not only the wildly, horribly sexual stuff about the congresswoman, but how they talk about the migrants. And then the picture of the dad and the 2-year-old who were killed, who died in the water. One of them says, oh, it's probably a sick Democratic conspiracy theory. They probably weren't real. Unchallenged.
23-month-old child dead, drowned, okay? And this is the type of reaction you get from the right wing. I mean, I have so much to say. The hypocrisy is just the beginning of it, right? So on one hand, you have the right wing in America talking about doing away with reproductive rights because we need to protect the zygotes, we need to protect the fetuses. There are children dying right now, at this very moment. 23-month-old dead. Is there any sympathy? Is there any empathy? Is there any of that coming from the right wing or Border Patrol agents? Of course not. Who cares? Who cares? I mean, how much more evidence do members of Congress need to actually act? And I'm not talking about throwing more money at the problem, which is what Nancy Pelosi wants. I'm talking about going after this administration, actually fighting and being a leader. When are we gonna have real Democratic leadership in this country? This is so pathetic. I mean, you have children living in feces, you have children dying, you have children who are sick and they're untreated. You have, I mean, dozens of people have died at this point in Border Patrol custody. And at first, you hear these reports about how, they arrived sick and there's all sorts of excuses being made for Border Patrol. No more excuses. It's abundantly clear that these people are being abused. There are children who are being sexually assaulted and molested in these facilities. Does anyone care about that?
Yeah, and to the point of all the deaths, when you have a Border Patrol agent openly saying if he dies, that's literally saying, I don't care that the kids are dying. That was a kid that he was referring to in their custody. So if you don't care that kids in your custody are dying, that's why they're dying, because you never made an effort to help save them. And this is, as a sociologist at the University of Arizona in Tucson said, seems to be, quote, a pervasive culture of cruelty. And so that's what we're doing right now in these detention centers. Look, I'm tired of saying if the Democrats don't fight, the leadership is pathetic.
They're not gonna fight.
They're never gonna fight, they're never.
We need to get them out, but we need to challenge every single one of these weak Democrats. Can you imagine for a second if the tables were turned and we had a Democrat in office and a Democrat did even a tiny sliver of what Trump has done? Nonstop, we're gonna impeach, and I guarantee you they would succeed. But with Nancy Pelosi, her recent response to the rape allegations against Donald Trump took me over the top, because she was asked, are you planning on doing anything about the fact that Trump was just accused of raping a woman 2 decades ago? She's like, I don't know, I'm not following that story. I don't even know who that is, and let the Republicans deal with it. What?
Let the Republicans deal with it? Yeah, they're gonna do absolutely nothing. What a ridiculous thing to say. I mean, Trump said I can kill somebody in Fifth Avenue and get away with it. I don't know if Bergdorf Goodman, where the alleged rape happened, is on Fifth Avenue, but there's some chance now that Nancy Pelosi is saying he could rape someone on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. She says, let the Republicans deal with it. So no, Pelosi should step down as leader, because she is literally not a leader. Unless her claim to fame is I'm leading in defense of Donald Trump and his actions. That's the only claim she can make to leadership. She's not leading Democrats, she's not leading progressives. So she's got to step down. And progressives in Congress, I think they're beginning to get the memo. Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic leadership, Steny Hoyer with his kerchief in his coat pocket, are not on your side. They're not on your side. They have been taught and funded to obey Republicans. And that is what their job is. They bow their heads at every turn, and their donors say, good boy, Steny, good boy. Go agree with the Republicans and shut up while you're doing it. And they've been following those commands for all these years. They're never gonna fight for us. Throw the bums out. Throw all the bums in leadership out. We need new leadership right now. And those people in those centers, we gotta return to the days of what we used to do, which is actually have America represent decency and humanity. We're not letting them go in the country. They have to show up to court, and well over 80% do without any problems. They have under Obama and they have historically. The number's actually much higher than I'm being conservative. But we cannot hold them in those centers now that we know for a fact that these Border Patrol agents view them as subhuman and treat them with unspeakable cruelty. Let them go right now. But again, Democratic leadership will do nothing. They just enabled Trump to spend as much as he wants on his pet projects and keep all these detention centers humming along, including the ones that are privatized and making a buck off of this cruelty. That's who Donald Trump is. But that's who Nancy Pelosi is, enabling Donald Trump to do that without any serious challenge.
I just want to note that
Bergdorf Goodman.
I obviously don't shop there. It is on Fifth Avenue.
It is?
So,
oh, there you go.
Anyway, we got to take a break. When we come back, Donald Trump's trip to North Korea.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, you must unlearn what you have learned. And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
Back on the Young Turks, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Let's go to members' comments as usual. Eclectic Miscellanea says, is this finally actually going to move Pelosi to action? We'll find out as soon as she checks with her donors and 2020 election pollsters. And that's how she operates. So let's see if she gets permission from the wealthy donors to do anything about this. Tommy Too Strong says the torture and humiliation are not a bug, they are a feature.
Yes.
The stated goal of the Trump administration is to make conditions so bad and publicize so that others will not follow. Well, another thing about that it's a point I made on one of my CNN appearances. Is it working? It's not even working. It's cruelty for the sake of cruelty. It just makes them feel better because they're horrible human beings. The reality is undocumented immigrants crossing the border is at a 13-year high. So if the cruelty was gonna work, and you can say, well, at least less people come, and hence eventually less people die, et cetera. No, that's not happening. More people are coming, and we're just being cruel to them because that's who Donald Trump is. He's a monster. And Yevi Kosh says, these people are paid by my tax dollars.
Right.
What would have to take place for these people to get fired? Good question.
You'd have to fire at least 9,500 of them.
Yeah, that are in that group. But again, Trump is gonna look at all that and think that's hilarious. And he's not gonna object to any of that. It's not the bug, it's a feature. Alexandra Eide says, love you guys, keep it up, watching from Norway. Thank you for doing that. And everybody sign up. Look, political donations are only if you're inside the country, but everyone can support progressive media in the US because we're all over the world, but you know how important the US is to setting policy. So does it look like there's other huge progressive media centers in America? No, okay? Especially including all of our partners. We're a huge percentage of the ball game here and we can't do it without you guys. So tyt.com/join to make that happen. Last one, I appreciated Greg who writes in, Cenk, you rock, please go and plead our case to release these people. Your passion is so infectious and I love it. Thank you, Greg. But look, I don't, the progressives in Congress, let me just tell you, are beginning to get really fed up. That whole, I told anybody who would listen, Democratic leaders are not your friends. They're gonna be polite to you and then do everything they can to defeat all of your policy positions.
Exactly.
And now people are beginning to see, unfortunately, that I was right. And so now great frustration is building within the caucus, which is a wonderful thing because we've got to get these weaklings, these people who are hooked on donor money, the hell out because they don't represent us. All right.
Real quick, you should create your website using Squarespace. Go to squarespace.com/TYT where you will get a 10% discount. And it's a super fast, easy way to build your site. So again, squarespace.com/TYT. All right, let's move on.
Stepping across that line was a great honor. A lot of progress has been made. A lot of friendships have been made. And this has been in particular a great friendship.
That was Donald Trump following his visit and his travel to North Korea. He is the first sitting US president who has crossed the demilitarized zone and into North Korea. And I don't really know what they talked about, but after he did that, there was apparently an hour-long meeting, give or take, with Kim Jong-un. And of course, this has to do with denuclearizing North Korea. However, this effort of diplomacy has not led to any type of new deal with Kim Jong-un, but it did lead to quite a photo op for Donald Trump, which I'll take if he's taking a diplomatic route that actually leads to real progress. So far, it has not.
All right, so let's do nuance here. First of all, I don't care that much about diplomatic minutia that people are over focusing on, like him going to the DMZ, the first sitting president to cross over and enter North Korea. Bill Clinton and Jimmy Carter have gone to North Korea, but they did it for diplomacy reasons and getting hostages out, et cetera.
After
they had left office, that's right. And some people are making a big deal out of he decided this at the last second and it was hard for his staff to catch up. He's the president. He's allowed to make those decisions last second and his staff will have to catch up. So I don't have problems with any of that stuff. But the North Koreans do care that a sitting US president goes into North Korea. They view that as a huge coup and are really excited about that. In fact, the New York Times quotes Mr. Kim. They say he is exuberant. He's told Trump, "Good, it's good to see you again. I never expected to meet you in this place." So what does that tell you? That means you could have gotten a concession out of the North Koreans for going to the demilitarized zone and then stepping into North Korea because they value it greatly. But Trump, as usual, didn't do his homework, didn't ask anybody. So it's not about the last minute thing and it's not about where he is. Who cares if he goes into North Korea if you ask me if we get peace, right? But he didn't get anything in return. He never gets anything in return. He is the world's worst negotiator, which goes to the most important issue. This guy is they've got a saying, all hat and no cattle. And in Trump's case, it's all ass hat and no cattle. And so what did you get in return? They've done missile tests while you were quote unquote negotiating with them.
That's right.
And they've built up their nuclear stockpile more. So we've literally gotten nothing out of these negotiations. We've gone backwards.
Yeah, you know what Trump got out of the negotiations? Something to campaign on. Look, you have to take a step back and look at what Trump has failed to accomplish for his base. The only thing that Trump has succeeded in thus far has been tax cuts for the wealthy, which of course do not poll well with his base or with Americans overall. So he has attempted to negotiate or renegotiate trade deals. He's failed on that front. If anything, that has led to a little bit of turbulence within the stock market. But there are farmers who have voted for Trump in the middle of the country who have been hurt by his trade wars. When it comes to building the wall, obviously Trump hasn't actually succeeded in building a wall. And more importantly, Mexico hasn't paid for building the wall. The only stories we hear is that there is a migrant crisis at the border. We hear that over and over again. Is that really delivering something for Trump's base? No. So this is his way of making himself out to be this great negotiator, this great deal maker who has the ability to sit down and have a conversation with Kim Jong-un as if previous presidents wouldn't be able to do the exact same thing. So for instance, Trump argued that that Obama was dying to have a meeting like this, but he couldn't succeed in doing it. Yeah, that's a lie, okay? Obama was not dying to sit down with Kim Jong-un. Now, Obama could have possibly approached things from a more diplomatic standpoint, and maybe he could have negotiated a deal with Kim Jong-un. Obama certainly would be better at negotiating a deal than Trump has been, carrying this out. He hasn't negotiated a deal. In fact, immediately after the first summit, he said, that's it, North Korea has denuclearized. We have nothing to worry about anymore. Have they actually done that? Of course not. They continued with their nuclear program and they, as Jake mentioned, did test a missile.
Yeah, so look, press, you gotta be clear. You think you're being tough on Trump, you're not. The headline from the Obama quote from Trump should be, President Trump lies about the former president. Everyone involved knows that Obama did not ask for a meeting with Kim Jong-un. You could criticize him for not asking for a meeting, that would be legitimate. But he never asked for one, and Kim Jong-un would have loved to have a meeting with Obama. Everyone who knows anything about North Korea knows that. If you're a reporter and you don't know that, you should be fired immediately, because you don't know any of the facts. I mean, it's pretty Trumpian if you don't know that. Kim Jong-un would have loved Obama to come to the DMZ and step over to the other side and tell him how much he loves Kim Jong-un. He would have loved for Obama to say, I have fallen in love with the dictator in North Korea. Obama didn't want to do any of that. So on that portion, Trump 100% lie. And if you don't call it a lie, his followers are gonna be like, well, he said it, so it must be true, right? And then now let's get to, I think, the most important part of this. Again, all hat, no cattle. Quote here from Trump. He said, there was great conflict here prior to our meeting in Singapore, which is an earlier diplomatic meeting they had. Tremendous conflict and death all around them, and it's now been extremely peaceful. It's been a whole different world. It's just, again, not remotely true. It's not like we were in the middle of a war, so there'd be little flare-ups here and there. But the problem with North Korea is not an immediate conflict that we were in the middle of. The problem is that while we're not having a conflict, which is a good thing, North Korea continues to build up its nuclear stockpile. And they now have added 6 more nuclear weapons according to our experts, our intelligence officials, okay? So while Trump is playing patty cakes with this dictator, and again, I'm actually, I don't have to say believe it or not, because if you ever watch the Young Turks cover this North Korea issue and Trump, we've said it every single time. We're actually rooting for him. We want him to get a good peace deal that eliminates North Korea's nukes, kind of like Obama did with Iran. That would be great. I like that he's doing diplomacy, but God damn it, he's so bad at it. And then he turns around and lies and says, oh, we fixed this thing. No, you didn't fix a goddamn thing. They don't just have the nukes they already had, they now have more nukes.
That's right.
And they've done more testing. It's like the president being a goddamn liar is a problem. It's a giant problem.
And you should call it what it is. It's a lie. He lies over and over again, and there's this weird timidness from reporters when it comes to using that word. Anyway, we've had that debate before, but I want to also draw attention to something else that the New York Times reported, and I believe it's absolutely true, and I'll explain why. So according to Michael Crowley and David Sanger at the Times, let's go to graphic 8, a real idea has been taking shape inside the Trump administration, a nuclear freeze, one that essentially enshrines the status quo and tacitly accepts the North as a nuclear power, something administration officials have often said they would never stand for. Now, John Bolton is very upset at this reporting, and he's arguing, no, this isn't true, this is a lie, we're not gonna allow them to remain a nuclear power to develop their nuclear weapons. But I think it absolutely is true. And the reason why I think that is because Trump wants it to appear as though he is winning in these negotiations, right? A good way to make it appear that you're winning is to just let North Korea do what it does and then go out to the public and say, look, we don't have to worry about anything anymore. They're not threatening us, we don't have any issues. And do you really think Kim Jong-un has any incentive to denuclearize? Because North Korea doesn't live on an island where they have absolutely no access to what's going on in the rest of the world. Donald Trump ripped up the Iran nuclear deal, right? I mean, if Trump is able to renege on that nuclear deal, why would any other world leader enter a real good faith negotiation or a binding agreement with him, knowing that he's not a man of his word, that he doesn't actually respect previous agreements or previous deals? And also, look at what Trump wants to do in Venezuela, where he wants to stage a coup to oust the leader there because he doesn't like him and he wants access to the oil. Anyone who is currently working on a nuclear program would be stupid to make a deal with Donald Trump. That's not saying I don't want a deal. That's not saying I don't want North Korea to denuclearize. I'm just trying to make a point about how Trump's behavior is counterproductive to what he actually wants to accomplish.
All right, one last thing. Look, on the Bolton issue, we disagree with Bolton more than we disagree with Trump. I hope Bolton's fired. I hope, because he's trying to start a war with any country that'll have his wars. Having said that, though, look at this quote from Donald Trump to give you a sense of his priorities, which proves what Anna was saying perfectly. He says he was relieved that Kim Jong-un came to their meeting. He said, quote, "If he didn't show up, the press was going to make me look very bad. So you made us both look good, and I appreciate it," he told Kim. Because this is all about how does Donald Trump look. This is not about whether they have nukes or not. One last comparison to the Iran deal. Obama not only ended the complete nuclear program of Iran, but it must be made clear they never had a nuclear weapons program. He ended their nuclear energy program and made a deal so that they didn't even have any uranium to even start a nuclear energy, let alone a weapons program. I mean, it was completely thorough, ended it completely. Now there's sunset provisions, but that was as good a deal as you could expect. In this case, Trump has let North Korea build 6 more nukes, not a nuclear energy program, a nuclear weapons program, right underneath his nose. And what is he obsessed with? How does it make me look? How does it make me look? Kim Jong-un made me look good. He can build all the nukes he likes. And why is he pressing for conflict with Iran but not with North Korea? Because North Korea doesn't have oil, Iran has oil, Venezuela has oil. And by the way, reporters, come on, goddamn it, do your jobs. There's 50 dictators in the world. We're picking on Iran and Venezuela, who just happen to be sitting on top of a mountain of oil. But golly gee, I can't tell. Here's another butcher, Kim Jong-un. Trump loves him. Mohammed Bonesaw Salman. Trump loves him. We're worried about dictators. We're worried about human rights. No, we're not. No reasonable reporter could report that with a straight face. But with Trump and the Republicans saying, hey, I gotta be neutral. My editor said, screw the facts. Who cares about the facts? Be neutral. Be neutral. Stop it, be objective reporters. We don't give a damn about human rights and we don't give a damn about dictators. You just want to start these wars in Iran and Venezuela because of the oil, and you'll let North Korea develop any nukes you want because that's who Trump is. All he cares is about himself and his own electoral chances. He's disgusting.
All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, Tucker Carlson responds to the critics who are concerned about North Korea's human rights abuses. His response just shows you how much they actually don't value human lives. We'll be right back.
At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your activity more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today.
Right back.
We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. All right, back on the Young Turks. Time for just 2 comments here, both from the member section. The Northern member says Trump's core base are cruel, unapologetic racists, and he has delivered for those. Who else would consider himself a Trump follower after the reports out of the border camps? Again, we look at those and we're horrified. His base goes, well, yeah, tax cuts for the rich and racism for everyone else. That's what we voted for. So congratulations on that. Lucifer Vaughn writes in, Republicans criticized the hell out of Obama for considering going to North Korea without any prior concessions. Now they're praising Trump for actually doing it. Republicans are completely FOS, full of you know what. And we're about to do that story right now in regards to Tucker Carlson because their hypocrisy knows no bounds.
Tucker Carlson was speaking about Donald Trump's recent visit to North Korea, and remember that North Korea, and especially Kim Jong-un, are definitely guilty of human rights abuses. I mean, you have people who are kept in gulags, people who are murdered for any type of perceived criticism toward Kim Jong-un. And so here's Tucker Carlson making excuses for all of that.
There's no defending the North Korean regime, which is a monstrous regime. It's the last really Stalinist regime in the world. It's a disgusting place, obviously, and so there's no defending it. On the other hand, you got to be honest about what it means to lead a country. It means killing people, not on the scale that the North Koreans do, but a lot of countries commit atrocities, including a number that we're closely allied with. And it's not necessarily a choice between, the evil people and the great people. It's a choice most of the time between the bad people and the worst people. That's just kind of the nature of life and certainly the nature of power. And I do think that's how the president sees it.
So Kim Jong-un, let's be very clear here. Kim Jong-un brutalizes and murders his own people, right? Now, we do a little bit of that here in the United States as well. Obviously, not anywhere near what Kim Jong-un does. But my point is, Tucker Carlson is making it out as if, hey, if you're a leader of a country, sometimes you gotta kill people, almost like to protect your country, right? He's making it sound like Kim Jong-un is just doing what you gotta do as a leader of a country. No, that's not what's going on here. He is brutalizing and murdering his own people. He brutalizes and murders his own family members for what he perceives to be, criticisms or not doing their jobs correctly enough. What is he talking about?
So there's 2 points here. One is Tucker Carlson on war and trying to keep us out of it, and the other is the conservative point of view on dictators. So I'll pull a Tucker here by going, on the one hand, Tucker Carlson is doing a good job of advocating for non-conflicts, for not to start wars in North Korea, Iran, etc. Now I'll do the Tucker. On the other hand, his defense of brutal dictators is not a great way to do that. And if he had done it with, and his reasoning is not great. So like we found out in the past that he is called Iraqis monkeys. So he's like, what's the point of going into Iraq for a bunch of monkeys? So I didn't want to go to war with Iraq, but that wouldn't be the reason I would pick. And with the North Koreans, he basically seems to be saying, who gives a damn about a bunch of North Koreans? So Kim Jong-un has them in concentration camps. So what? He murders them on a regular basis. So what? That is not the reasoning I would use to stay out of a war with North Korea. I would actually try to find a way to help the people of North Korea, but through peaceful means. Tucker basically says the conservative point of view, which is, I don't care about them. I don't care about Iraqis, I don't care about North Koreans. Who cares what they suffer, etc. But look, finish the thought on the second part about conservative view on dictators. Well, you gotta kill people to stay in charge. So apparently Mohammed bin Salman's okay in Saudi Arabia. Sometimes you gotta bring a bone saw and decapitate people and dismember them in order to stay in charge. But look at the hypocrisy. Would conservatives, now Tucker might, I don't know, because he's so against going to war with Iran. But would any other conservative say, oh, Ayatollah Khamenei, he kills people all the time. So what? So what? You gotta kill people to stay in power. And so the Ayatollah is doing the right thing by murdering a bunch of people to stay in power. Conservatives would never say that, right? It's so convenient. How about Al-Qaeda? Oh, well, I mean, sure, bin Laden was head of Al-Qaeda, but you gotta kill people to stay in power, right? That's Tucker's theory. You gotta kill people to stay in power. So wouldn't that excuse bin Laden as well?
No, it's pretty incredible because when it comes to a Republican president trying to take a diplomatic approach when it comes to brutal dictators, I mean, there's a line of right-wing talking heads who are willing to make excuses for that brutal behavior. So I'll give you one other example. Last year in May, Pete Hegseth said, and this is on Fox, that Kim Jong-un probably doesn't love being the guy who has to murder his people all day long.
Oh yeah, poor Kim Jong-un. He doesn't love murdering people. He has to do it though. He has to do it. Is there no bounds to how much they will kiss Donald Trump's ass.
No, there is no bounds. They will do anything.
And these are the same guys on Fox News that said, I hear Obama's considering going to North Korea. How dare he? We should never talk to evil. They supported Dick Cheney when he said that he turned down actually what was a great deal from Iran right after the Iraq invasion, because he said, quote, we don't talk to evil. But now they're like, way to talk to evil. And you know what? Evil's not so bad. You know, you gotta murder people. You don't want to do it. Poor Kim Jong-un, he doesn't want to do it. He wants to send love letters to our beloved Donald Trump every day. But he had to murder all those people, and of course that's okay. Come, for God's sake, man, if you're a Fox News viewer, aren't you embarrassed already? One more time, if you're a Fox News viewer, you know what they said about Obama and North Korea. Are you now turning around saying if Obama had gone to North Korea, he would have been weak and it would have shown terrible, like Neville Chamber-like appeasement of North Korea and their dictator, brutal dictator Kim Jong-un? But when Trump does it, it's wonderful. It's diplomacy, even though he got nothing in return. And they built 6 more nukes while Trump's been playing patty cakes with his lover. And that's not my words. Donald Trump said he fell in love with Kim Jong-un. And so now by definition, everybody on Fox News has now fallen in love with Kim Jong-un. Pathetic, absolutely disgusting.
All right, let's try to, I guess, laugh a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't know if we're gonna
luck.
laugh at
Good
the
luck,
story.
sister.
I know. The French government has released a short video featuring Ivanka Trump speaking to world leaders at the G20 summit. Now, the video went viral, and after you watch it, you could probably figure out why.
Yes, but this is about social justice. And
It's all, yeah.
As soon as you start talking about the economic aspect of it, though,
Yeah.
a lot of people start listening who wouldn't otherwise listen.
And the same with the defense side of it.
Yeah.
In terms of the whole sort of business. Been very male dominated. So.
Oh God, that was so wonderfully embarrassing.
So good.
Oh my God, and look, I gotta tell you, and I'm gonna admit this gratuitously, I've been there, okay? Not among world leaders where you don't belong, okay? But you know, I'm an up and coming talk show host, or no, not really. I'm a struggling talk show host early in my career, and I go to conventions and I try to butt in a little bit, like, hey.
Oh, it's the worst thing in the world.
It's so awkward, it's terrible.
But you're in the profession, so you do belong there, and it is awkward to jump in. But Ivanka Trump has absolutely no expertise, no history, no work experience in the type of position she has now as White House advisor. And everyone knows the only reason why she's in that position, the only reason why she's at the G20 summit in front of all these world leaders is because she's Donald Trump's daughter. Now, the woman that you see in the video who seems pretty annoyed is Christine Lagarde. She's head of the IMF, and she's actually a fascinating woman to speak to. When I was at the Munich Security Conference, I had a conversation with her, and she is not a dismissive woman. She's not the kind of person who just kind of brushes people off. But just to give you a little more context into what they were discussing, now you have Emmanuel Macron, you have Justin Trudeau, Christine Lagarde and Theresa May all speaking together. Ivanka Trump kind of interjects, and they're talking about social justice in this conversation. Macron can be heard to make a point about social justice, to which Trump, standing to his right, says it's on or it's all. I don't know what that even means. Like, okay. May answers Macron saying, as soon as you start talking about the economic aspect of it, though, a lot of people start listening who wouldn't otherwise listen. And then Ivanka Trump jumps in and says, and the same with the defense side, I think, in terms of the whole sort of being very male dominated. So, okay, so she's there because she wants to talk about female empowerment. But remember, your father has been accused of rape. He was accused of rape last week, okay?
Yeah.
So let's talk about, doing something about holding your father accountable for what he does in keeping women down, how he treats them as second-class citizens. I mean, he has cut foreign aid to countries who have legalized abortion.
Yeah, look, guys, it's so obvious from that interaction that the rest of the world leaders, and that's what they are, they're world leaders, are desperately trying to avoid talking to her. You can see they're making eye contact with each other, but not her. And in fact, it looks like they're trying hard not to look at her. Lagarde at the end gives that annoyed look, but mostly Trudeau's like, look at how he turns his head. I am listening to May. I am not listening to Ivanka. And she's interjecting with nonsense that it's not about the conversation they're having. I'm telling you, I've been there. You have a situation where they're talking about something and I'm jumping in at, when I'm a struggling talk shows. It reminds me of a show I was doing on the weekends in Washington, right? But that's a goofy talk show host conference. Who gives a damn? These are the world leaders, and our idiot president sends his daughter in to make nonsense small talk among the adults. Can you imagine, look, any other scenario, any other world leader, Kim Jong-un's like, oh, here, deal with my son or my daughter. Like, no, we're not gonna do that. Okay, put aside dictators. Theresa May randomly sends her daughter to the event. Macron sends his daughter. They'd be like, what are you doing here?
Right.
This is absurd. I'm not gonna talk to Macron's daughter. If the leader of France wants to talk, I'm gonna have a conversation. I'm not gonna have a conversation with his pet or with his daughter or his niece. What are you I don't care if you're Macron's cousin. This is insanity. What are you doing here?
So AOC tweeted about this, and I think the way she put it perfectly summarizes why this is frustrating for so many people and how this actually makes the United States look bad. So she says, it may be shocking to some, but being someone's daughter actually isn't a career qualification, Meghan McCain. It hurts our diplomatic standing when the president phones it in and the world moves on. The US needs our president working the G20. Bringing a qualified diplomat wouldn't hurt either, right? So I think she makes a great point there. And look, of course, there are gonna be other countries that clown on us for this type of behavior. But then there are also people in our own country who clown on us, and I think it's pretty funny. Aaron Ryan, who's been on the show before and is gonna come back soon to be a guest on the panel, tweeted this, and I love these types of activities on Twitter, right? So here's the assignment. Somebody please Photoshop Ivanka, the unwelcome interloper, boxing way above her weight into the following. And then she gives examples. There's Megan Rapinoe, goal celebration, Nixon Elvis meeting, Beyonce's Coachella performance, Curry's Lab, Constitutional Convention, cast of Big Little Lies. And I just want to share some of the examples with you. So here is the Rapinoe example. There's Ivanka Trump holding a sign with, I guess, one of her products. Then you have Ivanka Trump with MLK. And then this is my personal fave, just due to the creativity of it and the artwork that it took to make it happen. Look at the history.
Yeah. She's the Forrest Gump of the American aristocracy.
Yes, it's devastating and embarrassing. I guess this wasn't the story that we would laugh too much about, but all right, we gotta take a break. We have more news for you when we come back, including, what are we gonna talk about? Oh, Don Jr., racist just like his father, and we'll tell you why.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.